Chapter 10 of Dead Men's Shoes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Stroh at Turks and Caicos Islands. Dead Men's Shoes by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Chapter 10, Sybil Takes the Lead. The favourable impression which Sybil makes on her Uncle Stephen Trenchard is a fact too obvious for diversity of opinion. Marion reluctantly, sullenly even, admits that truth, with many sneers and innuendos about winning manners and hollow-heartedness. "I've never laid myself out to please Uncle Stephen as Sybil lays herself out," murmurs the injured maiden. "I can't flatter people with my looks. I haven't Sybil's caressing ways. I can't pretend more affection than I feel, and I must say that Uncle Stephen's dry little jerky ways of speaking and looking at one are not calculated to develop affection." Thus argues Marion in the easy atmosphere of Uncle Robert's everyday parlour. The girls are seated at supper with Dr. Faunthorpe's trifling with morsels of bread and cheese after having dined with Mr. Trenchard. "I did not find him hard or dry," replies Sybil. "He seems really kind and affectionate, and I was grateful for him for his warm welcome. I don't know what you mean by my laying myself out to please him. I remember that he was poor Mamma's only brother, and our own flesh and blood, the uncle I had heard so much about years ago, and I was naturally touched by our meeting." "Ah," says Marion, "what an advantage it is for a woman to be able to cry when she likes. How do you manage it, Syb?" "If the tears came into my eyes today, it was because I am not very strong just now, Marion," answers Sybil, reddening. "You are really the most horrid girl I ever met with." "However horrid I am not double-faced," replies the other promptly. "I should be ashamed to court Uncle Trenchard if I were you. When I remember the things you've said about him—" "What things?" "What a convenient memory yours is! Haven't you said that you despised him for his meanness as a young man? That he won his way in the world by double-dealing, by base flattery of his patron? That all your sympathy was with the young man he supplanted, Mr. Secretan?" At that name Sybil flushes crimson, and then grows ashy pale. "Ah, I see you do remember," cries Marion triumphantly. "Marion," exclaims the mild little surgeon, with a rare flash of anger, "I will not have your sister teased in this manner. How dare you accuse her of falsehood or hypocrisy? She has as good a right to Stephen Trenchard's favour as you have." "Yes, and to his fortune." "Let her have it all," cries Marion, tempted to go into hysterics, but thinking better of it immediately. "She is to go and stay with him and keep house for him directly she can get her things ready, which, considering she came home without a rag, must take some time. She is to pay him a long visit. I'm nobody now." "My love, you have had your innings," pleads the Pacific doctor. "Oh, of course, and just as I've got to understand his ways and know how to please him, I'm pushed aside." "My dear, his sense of justice will induce him to distribute his bounty fairly." "His sense of justice did not prevent his kissing Sybil more affectionately than he has ever kissed me." "Mere fancy on your part, I have no doubt," says the doctor. After this little burst of temper, Marion calms down and is tolerably placable. She even discusses her sister's outfit with some show of interest. Mr. Trenchard has given Sybil £25. "I suppose you are pretty well provided with cash, little one," he said, just before she wished him good night. "An independent-minded young woman like you who goes out into the world to get her own living is sure to have a well-lined purse." Sybil blushed and owned that her purse had no lining at all. "Ah, I see. Sent help home to the old doctor," muttered Mr. Trenchard, fortunately not loud enough for Marion to hear, or that sharp-tongued young person would inevitably have set him right. "Well, well, very right, very proper." And then the crimson pocketbook was slowly brought forth, and Mr. Trenchard sighed a desponding sigh as he opened it. A sigh that was like a funeral gun for his departing banknotes. Sybil went back to the dingy old house at the bottom of the town, richer by £25 than when she left it at midday. The girls go out, gaily enough, next morning to Carmichael's, the haberdashery, linen drapery and silk mercery establishment of Redcastle, to supply the void in Sybil's wardrobe. £25 is not much for a young lady of large ideas, but Sybil, schooled in the philosophy of small means, makes the most of that sum. She spends all her money at Carmichael's and trusts Providence and Stephen Trenchard for means to pay Miss Eylett for the making up of her dresses, and Mr. Corksole, the bootmaker, for the equipment of her pretty little feet. It is astonishing how far away from the thoughts of Miss Eylett and Mr. Corksole seems the notion of payment now that Miss Faunthorpe's rich uncle has returned from the Indies. "You are to send the things home to me at Lancaster Lodge," says Sybil, "and that seems as good as paying for them." Sybil has asked for a week in which to prepare herself for this important visit, and that week is occupied in the stitching, hemming, sewing, felling, gathering and trimming of underclothing, the fashion of ready-made linen not having yet vitiated the housewifely habits of Redcastle. The lower middle classes make their own garments laboriously and are proud of their toil.